Offensive and defensive line play, how would you rate that today, first day in pads?
I thought it was physical play. I mean, in the spring, I thought we dented our defensive line, our offensive line, moved them off the ball considerably when we wanted to. I think our defensive line has made great strides in the weight room physically. I think Mike Elston's done a great job with technique. We use our hands so much better. I think there's a battle there now. There's a line of scrimmage that exists that I didn't think quite existed in the spring. I think the offensive line owned the line of scrimmage. Now it's a real physical and it's a real good battle. There's
some freshmen that seem to get positive reps, MTA and Heinisch. Can you talk about their progress and also Darnell Ewell, your expectations of him over the balance of the camp?
Well, I think Myron and Kurt are guys that have separated themselves on the defensive tackle position. And Darnell is just more developmental, learning the game, learning the nuances of the technique. He's powerfully strong, but he doesn't have some of the technique and things necessary right now. I mean, it's all yet, right? He's going to have it. He just doesn't have it yet. Those guys have what it takes to contribute as freshmen. So both of those guys, we see them both playing as freshmen.
Brian, what was your message to the team there after the first week of training camp?
Again, still focus on the traits. We're not going to reward talent here. I did that last year. It was a mistake. We're going to reward those guys that have an attention to detail, that have a great focus and play with grit. We lost a lot of games last year with guys that I did not develop in the right way, and we're going to develop them the right way. So if you're not happy with where you are right now in terms of maybe how much time you got, has nothing to do with your talent. Just focus on those traits, and that'll get you on the field.
Does that explain Stefferson and where he's at right now?
Well, I think it's not just Kevin. I think anybody. I think if you look at anybody in terms of what their reps were today, a lot of it is about attention to their detail. And some of it's just a matter of them learning, some of the new systems and things that we put in. So I would like to refer back to yet. We're 5 days into this, right? So if they're not out here, they're just because they're not there yet. But we expect a lot of these guys that are not playing as much right now, to contribute for us.
Resolution on Alohi Gilman yet?
No. We have not. We've been asked by the NCAA to be patient, and they're working on it. They know that we need an answer. Jill Bodensteiner, our senior associate athletic director, was here today to kind of update us a little bit. We've provided all the information. They're looking for a little bit more clarification on some things from the Naval Academy and actually the academies. So we're still working through that process.
Sort of evaluate Brandon Aiyuk in terms of seeing the field. When coverages get changed up, being able to sort of adjust on the fly.
I think he sees some things. Well, we're laying a lot on him right now, Pete. So we're in the installation phase. If I took 5 or 6 routes that he knows really well, I would say crystal clear. I would say in terms of at 5 days where you've got 30 different route concepts, I don't know if I'm very clear right now on some of the things. So yeah, I mean it's some of the plays that we're calling are about installation of plays more so than, all right, what are Brandon's plays per se? So I think a lot of it is some of the pressures and getting in the right protections, a lot of those things. It's 5 days in and he's learning, but he's going to be ready for tempo when we get there. Yeah, it looks like a grade 1 hamstring. It doesn't look like to be a severe one. We'll take we'll get an image of it, but I think we feel pretty confident that we don't have something here that's major.
Brian, there was a point where Niles pulled the defense over after they got scored on pretty easily. Had a chat with them and looked like they came back stronger. What are you seeing from him on and off the field during this camp?
Niles has been refining his leadership skills. I think early on Niles is intent of what he was saying and impact didn't always match up. His intent now and how he's impacting are, scoring very well in terms of how he's communicating, and that's been a work in progress, and he's taken a great deal of pride in making sure that he can communicate effectively with his defensive players. So it doesn't surprise me. He's taken a lot of pride in wanting to be a really effective communicator.
Was it an obvious choice to put error on the front of the helmets for the upcoming season?
When it wasn't my idea, but when it was presented to me, it seemed to be an awesome decision to have error on our helmet and to honor him in that fashion. So. He's a man's man. He's a football coach's dream in the sense that he represented the toughness of the game as well, and to have it on the helmet instead of being on the cloth, I just think it's a great symbol.
Whose idea was that?
I think it was Jack Swarbrick's.
And then you're just planning for tomorrow, guys. You plan to bring the team up there?
No, we're not. We certainly, as you know, a very tough ticket to get into the Basilica, but myself and Assistant Athletic Director Chad Klunder will be representing our football team.
Do you remember what your first meeting was like with him, the first time you met him, what that was like, what you talked about?
I remember meeting him, and he was so, I don't want to say resilient or resistant to come by, but I almost had to beg him to come by because he didn't want to be a distraction. I remember him saying that, I don't want to be a distraction. I'm like, you're Ara Parseghian. You're not a distraction. You're well. I went out of the way to make sure that at any time he wanted to be there, but he wasn't that man. He wanted you to do your thing. I mean, he walked away from football at 50-something years old, right? So, but I remember working really hard to just get him to go to a practice, and then having them there. I asked him to speak, and he was like, you want me to speak to your team? I go, for an hour if you would. That was my first interaction. You had a question?
Yeah, it was off of Eric's with Niles. He just looked much faster today. Is that kind of what you've been noticing too?
Well, I think everybody physically has, certainly taken a great deal of pride in where they are physically. I think a lot of that has to do with just recognition. Very comfortable in what he's doing defensively, where he's seeing things and reacting really quick. Look, Niles will be the first one to tell you, he loves football. He's doing weight training because he's got to weight train. He's working out in the summer because he has to work out in the summer, but he can't wait for football because football is what he's best at. And so when he gets in these kinds of situations, this is where he really excels.
Brandon, anybody standing out so far in the first few days?
Eric kind of asked a question that really centers on a couple of the freshman defensive linemen and a couple of the freshman wide receivers. Michael Young, Jafar Armstrong, those two kids have been very impressive. They're very intentional in what they do, very mature. They have really been impressive in the way they handle themselves on a day-to-day basis. Those four young guys, along with the mid-years that we had, a lot of freshmen. Cole Kmet is extremely gifted physically, can run out. I think some of those young guys have really shown up. I like Avery Davis's presence at the quarterback position. Very commanding in the way he stands in front of the group, and that as a head coach, when you have a guy that can take over like that has been impressive. So a lot of the young guys, I think, have really done a nice job. And then the strength and the gains. Andrew Trembetti, I'd like to point him out. He's up to 263 pounds. He looks like the guy that we recruited out of high school. He was a dominating player in high school, had an edge about him. We did a poor job of developing him until this year, and he is at that point where he's going to make an impact, and it's going to be fun to watch.
What flipped the light switch with him? Was it the weight room stuff, or was it?
God, I mean, I could list you know, 5, 6, 7 different things. You know, I think he's got a great relationship with Coach Elston. I think he feels really comfortable with Coach Elko. You know, sometimes, you know, just getting to that point where it's your last season, you know, all those things coming together. But really proud of what he's doing. And like I said, it's always been a fight, you know, with him in terms of body weight and strength. And he's physically an imposing edge player for us right now.
Is the plan for him to play either end spot or to be able
Yeah, we're gonna cross train him. Yeah, he has the ability to play the strong end and the drop, so we got some really good flexibility with him. Yeah.
When you were mentioning Era a minute ago, when was that first practice that you invited him? Or
It was my first year.
Oh,
Yeah, it was my first year. I mean, your first year as the head coach at Notre Dame, I mean, you know who your call list is. I mean, you're calling Era and Lou Holtz right away. Frank Leahy's alive, you're calling him too, because he's got more championships than all of them. So those were the two guys for certain.
And tomorrow, other than you attending the services and the helmets, what's the team's plan of honoring Era?
We don't have any specific plans other than, you know, they know about Era. They recognize his great contributions to Notre Dame, but you know, they're living in their world right now as Era would want them to be, right in camp. Get some rest, and they'll do that tomorrow. Tomorrow is the first day, mandatory day off in the new NCAA rules relative to how you handle your camp. So these guys are going to sleep in, relax. It's a different camp now, so mentally they're already, you know, feeling pretty good about themselves that they got through 5 days with a day off. So they're pretty happy. We went 11 straight days last year without a day off. So I know our trainers, I think our support staff are pretty happy about this new legislation as well.
How do you manage your days off?
Well, tomorrow again we'll head out to Era's event, but for coaches it'll be about preparation for the next 2-3 days because we'll get our practice scripts and things of that nature done. But we'll let the coaches sleep in a little bit tomorrow. It's not more about the coaches; it's about the GAs and support staff getting a little extra rest, and then recharge the battery. But for these guys, more than anything else, it's just to, again, we don't have anything scheduled. We're not allowed to schedule. And I think that's a good idea. Good?
Cool. Thanks, Coach.